Five Golden Nights at Freddy's is a fan game series made by the developer Kuno, who makes a variety of games, but I think it's mostly just like anime horror games. I've heard from a friend that the Hayumi-chan quadrilogy is pretty decent, so, I might make a video about that later. Although you should follow me on Blue Sky, because if you follow me on Blue Sky, I'll post updates about videos and stuff like that. Also, if we get 100 subscribers by the end of December, I'll make a video for my favorite game ever made, Persona 5 Royal. I really enjoyed making this video, and I'm really interested in making more videos like this on old, forgotten fan game series, like Five Nights at Toy Freddy's, if you know that at all. But I never actually played the 5 Golden Nights games. I've only seen Riskrim play the first two, and then the third game went ignored by pretty much everybody in the fandom. So I want to see if these games are still good, even after the 9 years since the first two, and see if the third game was deserved of being ignored. Let's start with... Alright, so something about the Golden Nights games is they don't actually have any cameras in all 3 of these games. This wasn't the first time a fan game got rid of the cameras, but it's one of the first times a more traditional fan game got rid of the cameras, as the closest one I could think of off the top of my head was the Five Nights at Fuckboys games. And even then, you technically already had them in the games as their enemies, but that's not important. So that begs the question, if there are no cameras at all, how do you see where the animatronics are? In front of you is what appears to be a TV with a map on it. The map shows you all the progress of the characters. Let's talk about the actual game itself though. We're gonna go night by night on this case. Night 1 is a pretty boring night to begin with. You are introduced to Bonnie, although you will almost never see him, as I don't think he is a threat. At least it's very hard to actually find him, as in my playthrough, he didn't even come near the office. Although I'll briefly mention Night 1 later, so keep that in the back of your head. But let's move on to Night 2. Night 2 introduces Springtrap. He will run around the building frantically. You'll have to put the mask on to deal with him. It also introduces Phantom Freddy, who slowly walk across the hallway. If you take the mask off when they're not on the other side of the hallway, then you'll die. That's honestly all the threats Night 2 introduces. Although I am questioning so many things. First off, why do you have to deal with Phantom Freddy with the mask? Why is Phantom Freddy here? Isn't he an hallucination, or is that only confirmed recently? I've been a fan since the beginning, but it's hard to keep up with half this shit in this series. Can we talk about the phone guy for a second? The phone guy in this game is fucking terrible. Most of the time, it's absolutely inaudible. I was only able to learn what he was saying after getting the footage and then putting it up to like 13 decibels. The game is not too hard, like you can understand what you're supposed to do and figure it out easily, but it is so laughably bad how garbage the phone guy is in this game. I know it's an abrupt change, but I just had to talk about it. I could not find a better way to put that until after talking about Night 6, and I just decided to drop it here. Speaking of things I couldn't find a good place for, let's talk about minigames. Many fan games have these. Usually they serve as small bits of lore explanation without having to be told it through the phone guy, and they're usually only unlocked after the night segments, although there are some examples where it is not, where it's arguably more of a main thing than the actual night segments themselves. This game is no different, but I'll talk about the minigames when they happen, so let's move on to Night 3. Night 3 introduces 2 new characters. The puppet, who's not dealt with the mask, but rather you have to click on her twice. She'll let out a loud static sound when she's in the office, and she'll appear on the map. Finally, we have the second animatronic. We have Phantom BB. He'll appear in front of your desk and you'll have to click on him multiple times. If you don't do it fast enough, you'll die. After you beat Night 3, the minigame has you walking around the building. Eventually, Springtrap will rush up to you, and that's it. It ends with a jump scare. If you wait long enough, then you'll get an alternative ending. On Night 4, the final animatronics are revealed. Phantom Mangle. she'll drop down in front of you. You'll have to click on them multiple times to have them leave. She's honestly the biggest threat of the characters, even though I don't think she could kill you. She'll make it so the animatronics on the map are invisible until you make her leave. The Night 4 minigame has you walking around in the back room. You're supposed to touch the cake at the very bottom. Night 5 is just more of the same. The only thing I have to comment on is the phone guy is doing this weird, shitty, fucking Donald Trump impression. I don't know why. And just like the normal nights, the audio balancing is fucking shit, so you can't hear it. Anyway, whenever you beat Night 5, you're greeted with the default bad ending. If you restart your game back to Night 1, click on Bonnie's square, you get inserted into Night 6, which is fucking impossible. It's not actually impossible, there is footage of people beating it, but I'm not going to waste my time doing this fucking RNG bullshit. Do you remember when I said Phantom Mangle was the final animatronic? I lied. Withered Foxy's the real final character, and I don't understand how he works. I think you have to get rid of Phantom Mangle and all the noise in the office, but it didn't work for me. So many times, even after getting rid of them, I would fucking die. Here's footage of Dawko beating it.
Yes! I did it! I got the good ending! That's how you do it, guys! That's how you get the good ending.
A fun fact, this game has 0 fucking Wikipedias. They exist, but they're so fucking empty. One is just a blank page, and then I found 2 others, but those 2 were also blank and gave me 0 information on like the mechanics and the history and stuff. I want to thank the YouTuber Salvage, because I went on YouTube to see if there was anything I could glean from this, and at the time I only got both the good ending and the bad ending, and then technically the worst ending because I died. However, thanks to him, I found the total of 4 endings, and I got them myself. So again, shout out to fucking Salvage. He is the goddamn goat of this game. And I'll quickly go over each ending. The good ending is achieved whenever you beat the first 4 nights normally, and then you click on the Golden Freddy picture above the newspaper in your office. A Golden Freddy plush will appear on your desk. You have to beat it normally, or skip the night by pressing 69, and then you get a newspaper documenting how the building disappeared, because I guess this is set in the same universe as a Willy Wonka reboot. During the Night 3 minigame, I said if you wait a certain amount of time and leave the building through the door, you could get another ending. And that's true, because you'll get the better ending, where your main character just quits. The real ending is a picture of the crying child that you get after beating the 6th night. And the final ending is the best ending. You have to be in Night 5, click on the title screen's Freddy, his nose, hang up on the collar, and then you get a fucking rave until you're jump scared by Shadow Freddy. That's honestly all I have to talk about the original 5 Golden Nights at Freddy's for. And honestly, I could say that this game is terrible. I could say that it's bad. And while I wouldn't say that this is a good game by any means, I did genuinely have a fun time playing it. And even if it's not great, I do think that this is a fan game anybody could play. It's good for newer fans to see what old games were like back when the community was blooming, and it's good for older fans who are nostalgic for this game, like myself. In fact, I'm about to make a controversial statement here. I would say I enjoyed my time with Golden Knights 1 more than a popular series like the Candies games. But let's talk about the sequel and see how that game improved. Golden Knights 2 was released on April 7, 2015, and it's a massive improvement compared to the original game. Just like the first game, there are no cameras, and the map is right in front of you. And just like in the first game, your main defense is a mask. However, there are a few new mechanics. The first is a light which illuminates the map that you cannot see without. You need to recharge the light's power. The map has 3 buttons. 2 of them are vents that you could seal, and 1 is a door for Foxy. Now, I am still going to talk about this game night by night, but before we do that, I want to quickly illuminate how fucking terrible this Night guy is. He is so goddamn quiet again. Night 1 is Toy Freddy, Toy Bonnie, and Toy Chica active. Freddy will walk across the hallway, and you have to put the mask on. Toy Bonnie will do the same thing, but he'll occasionally go through the vent to your left. Toy Chica, on the other hand, will only go through the vents. Just click on the dots to seal them. You can only seal 1 vent at a time. And I will also be talking about the minigames as well. The one after Night 1 is where you give cake to a crying child, and that's really about it. Night 2 has a new character, Golden Freddy. At least I think that's Golden Freddy. He will cause the screen to flicker before he appears, and he's dealt with the mask, just like usual. And that's honestly it. It's just Night 1 with a new character that's barely an increase in difficulty. And then as for the minigame, you're running away from the purple guy, but it ends with him catching up to you. Night 3 introduces Foxy. I briefly touched on it before, but Foxy's door will occasionally unlock. You have to click on it through the map again to lock it. If you fail to lock it in time, you die. Balloon Girl, aka JJ, is also active on this night. She'll appear from the bottom of the screen and you have to click on her a few times. I think she prevents you from wearing your mask. Again, just like the first game, there's no wiki to this game that has any information, so I'm guessing. And I never encountered that scenario with her because I got rid of her pretty much immediately. But Night 3's minigame is you dressing up as Freddy, and then it cuts to Foxy, and you run into Shadow Freddy, and whenever you touch him, the minigame ends. Great. And then we get Night 4. Night 4 reintroduces Springtrap and Phantom Freddy. They work the exact same way in the OG game. Also, something I didn't mention is a shadow would run across the hallway. The reason why I didn't mention it before is because in my playthrough, I assumed it wasn't a threat. However, I found out on Night 4 that if you click on it, you're greeted with this. I don't know if it's because I suck ass at this game, or if it's, like, true, but Night 4 has a difficulty spike I genuinely was not expecting. I did not beat Night 4, that's how hard this night was to me, but the minigame has you catch 10 presents and you avoid what I think are hats, or maybe they're spikes. Regardless though, when you catch the 10 presents, the minigame ends. Night 5, like Night 4, is more of the same, so no new characters or anything. It's just harder than the previous night. And then for Night 5's minigames, a gray guy talks to Bonnie, and you walk out the door. I don't think you could do anything. And that's honestly all there is to the second game. I tried to look for footage for Night 6, but I couldn't see anything really important enough to talk about. Before I talk about Golden Knight 3, I briefly want to talk about what happened between the release dates of both games. After the release of the second game, Kuno had made an official post on GameJolt. He decided to leave FNAF forever, and he plugged a game that he called Her Nightmare. After that, he made a GameJolt post, and said that he'll be removing the Golden Knights games, saying he was sick of them and he's not a FNAF fan. However, he posted a message called A Chance. It was more of a contest though. If you could get the good ending in his game Her Nightmares by Sunday, then the game will stay up. As you could tell by me actually being able to play the games, the 2 games were thankfully not taken down, and he announced that they will stay up as long as they want the games to be up for. After that, Kuno didn't really interact with the community that much. There was the occasional post talking about updates he would make to the games, and then a few years after that, he made a post asking if anyone wants a 5 Golden Nights at Freddy's VR remake, which is hype, unironically. One day, though, a post was put on Kuno's GameJolt page. It was a screenshot of an office, and below it was a link to 5 Golden Nights at Freddy's 3 storage. Kuno would have regularly updated his GameJolt page with updates on how the third game is coming along, until finally on April 16th, 2022, the game was released on Game Jolt. Oh yeah, something I didn't mention before is the game's story, and that's incredibly simple. Like most fan games, the first 2 games never really had a story. They boiled it down to something as basic as, I want you guys to watch over the establishment, and that's it. According to the Game Jolt page, the story is that you've arrived at an abandoned facility. You've heard that your sister is there and you want to try and find her. Side note, this is not in my notes, but I had a genuinely tough time writing this segment because I didn't just want to have to write down everything that happened in the game, but because this is not a traditional Five Nights at Freddy's 5-night structure, is like Security Breach in that sense. It was incredibly tough to write it down, like what was happening, while also not just telling you everything, so I did try to do my best. The game starts with our main character entering the building. You're able to go inside the door closest to you. By searching around the door, you find a Freddy mask, which is something you'll need. Next to you is a door that is boarded up, and at the moment, you currently can't do anything with that. So, whenever you progress past a hallway, you see a shadowy figure. Is that your sister? Who knows, but we also don't really get any information from this game. Our main character also has a headache. You should remember that for later. But when we click on an arrow, we are greeted with Foxy rushing toward us. You simply have to hide on a box by clicking on it. We have more rooms to explore. A bathroom with a locked stall, but an office key is inside that room, as well as a storage room with a Bonnie mask. There is nothing else you could do in that hallway. So you might be wondering, what do we do next? Well, remember that office key I talked about? You're supposed to go to the office where our first night segment will activate. In this office, we're supposed to fully recharge the building's power. And I won't lie, I really did not like this section when I first played it. Let's quickly talk about the character's mechanics first though. Chica's cupcake will spawn on your desk. If you don't click it in time, Chica will kill you. Foxy will try to run to your office. You have to close the door to stop him. And then Freddy and Bonnie will walk in front of your hallway from the left and right. You have to put their mask on to fool them. Once they're out of your view, you could put the mask off. So, why did I dislike this section so much? Well, at first, I didn't know about this section's use of directional audio. And because of that, I got really annoyed at this section, as I didn't know who was coming from which side. However, whenever I eventually learned it was through directional audio, I genuinely actually started to like this. However, whenever you do beat the office segment, you're supposed to go inside a giant morgue and grab a crowbar. This is where 2 important things can happen. After you get the crowbar, you can actually leave and get an alternate ending, but I'll talk about that later. Whenever you get the crowbar, you could go to the bathroom, and you can actually open that locked stall where we get a chip, which, like the alternative ending, I'll talk about more later. And then, whenever you get the crowbar, you could finally, and obviously, break open the boarded door. You choose the basement first. The basement has you defending yourself from Freddy, Bonnie, Foxy, Springtrap, Withered Golden Fredbear, Endo01, Chica, and you're supposed to survive until the power runs to 0. Whenever you beat the basement level, you're greeted with the volunteer ending. Break it, your headache goes away. It's not just a minor unimportant thing. If you head into the basement again, the only animatronics active are Springtrap and Fredbear. And beating it gets you the reunion ending. When you first leave the morgue, you can actually leave and get out. After that, you get the get out ending. And that's honestly kind of all I have. I'm surprised I had 17 pages of things to talk about. I'm honestly glad that I played these games for the first time.